I am absolutely thrilled to be speaking with you all today, and I predict that this kind of thing will happen more and more. And I'm going to be spending about the next half hour explaining why. And what I want to do in this talk is I want to lay down my argument, which is that all of you are religious whether or not you think you are. Kind of kidding. And then kind of open it up for a discussion. I will lay out my ideas about the future of religion, and then I will answer any questions, and hopefully that will be good as far as time goes. I want to thank the organizers, the community of good, and especially Kimberly Nelson, who's been kind of the point person as far as getting me here. And so, as I said, communities precisely like this fulfill a very important role and will continue to fulfill a greater role. I'm going to talk about transcending religion, which is the intersection of religion and human needs. So being human is messy. For most of life on Earth, life is the precise goal, keeping that going, staying alive. If you avoid being eaten or otherwise extinguished long enough to reproduce, you're ahead of the curve. But the more complex the animal, the more complex the needs. Which animals get lonely? Which animals get anxious? We humans enjoy the evolutionary luxury of being able to have all our physical needs met and still find ourselves utterly miserable. The message of my sermon today, and yes, I'm choosing to call it that, is that we as humans both need religion and need to transcend religion. Before I manage to offend every single person here, I want to explain that the word religion can mean both more and less than you might think. In the modern world, religion both resonates and disappoints, for reasons I'll explain in just a moment. Transcending religion works in two ways. If you are a member of an organized religion, you can craft a version of that religion that transcends its flaws and limitations. You can live a form of that religion so good, it doesn't matter if it is true. And if you transcend religion in the more straightforward sense of moving beyond it, you can graduate from religion in a way that retains the benefits that religion brings to the human experience. After touching on the question of what religion is and how it interacts with human nature, I will tackle the challenging topics of the past, present, and even future of religion. I propose that religious humanism holds the greatest potential to improve existing religions and even heal the world through religion done better. I think that we can meet almost everyone's needs through three approaches. One, religion better than true. Two, a spiritual training regimen. And three, religious humanist denominations. I will explore these approaches in both ideal and immediately applicable forms. So what is religion? When I share my ambitions to fix religion, wording a bit tongue-in-cheek but also serious, a common response is, I love all that you're doing. This is great stuff. But could you just not call it religion? Call it something else. Call it spirituality. I can get behind that. Religion is a turnoff for many. My response is that I embrace religion and own the fact that it is an integral part of human nature. Integral, not in that you have a God-shaped hole in your soul and by the way, he misses you, kind of way, but in a we are hard-pressed to name a single culture in the history of the world that has not had religion, and that is probably for a reason kind of way. And that reason is that humans and religion have co-evolved for at least the past 70,000 years, the cognitive revolution that allowed for complex abstract thought, and likely significantly longer. So religion is everywhere, as we know. But what is it? I define religion as follows: an interconnected system of beliefs and rituals in the context of community in reference to transcendent reality. But what does this definition mean for those questioning or moving past religion, or those who dislike or are allergic to religion? First, we should acknowledge that transcendent reality is really the only point for debate in this definition. And this is where it becomes clear how deeply humans and religion are interconnected. To move away from the R word for a moment, we humans tell stories. Stories are everything. We organize our lives and identities with stories. We make decisions and justify those decisions with stories. We make sense of our existence with stories. In fact, one could say stories are more important to us humans than life or death. We are surrounded by myths and stories every day, not just the shows we watch, but the commercials that tell us how to live. We are also deeply ritualistic. You know how you love a nice vacation but are really anxious to return to the normal routine? Or next time you shower, try to wash your body in a different order than you usually wash your body. And something as mundane as a parking ticket has ritualized wording and a required ritual response, usually involving symbolic objects. Money is also a myth, one of the most successful. Governments, education, sports, music. We are surrounded by powerful cultural forces that function as near religions with their interconnected systems of beliefs and rituals. We also crave community. Very few of us can survive completely alone. And apart from the few independently minded survivalists with their trusty dogs, almost none of us could survive a solitary life. That leaves only transcendent reality. And here again, we bump up against human nature. Sure, many of you may not believe in gods or demons. And yet, even those who are not religious are often superstitious. And even those who are not superstitious often long to lose themselves in something greater and feel a sense of elevation. We humans are wired to feel a sense of transcendence and connection with something greater than ourselves. Here's the problem, though. If religion is so deeply woven into us, why does it suck so often? Why does it bore and disappoint? It's because you haven't updated your religion. I mean, you have, but most haven't. The versions of religion that we think of are thousands of years old, born in the Bronze Age or Iron Age, and yet even those forms continue to move us. Unfortunately, they often move us in the wrong directions. I want to drive home my point with a thought exercise, a question. And this earns an automatic A in my class, so if any of you have good answers, please let me know. Can any of you come up with any aspect of culture, any at all, that motivates more powerfully and universally than religion? Think globally. Think historically. I submit that there is no other cultural technology that does everything religion does, and as potently. Family, government, and nationalism, and self-interest, especially money, come close. But does any other aspect of culture influence private thoughts and actions like religion? I don't know if this is a good audience for my crass illustration. I'll skip on it. Let's talk about the competition for a moment. Just think there are certain activities that only religion can get you to try to stop doing. So the competition. Government and nationalism are powerful, but people give their resources and lives sometimes very reluctantly for the most part. We don't want to die for our country, and far too many grumble about paying taxes, not connecting those taxes to the streets and sewage and education and roads that those taxes pay for. Families are strong and make up the core unit of society, although it's extended family, not the nuclear family, which is a disaster, that is the core unit. But if your family is made up of your favorite people, you're unusually lucky. And too often those who would do anything for you are your family of choice, not your family of origin. What about economics? You can buy anything with money, right? Even happiness? That's what the commercials say. Money makes the world go round. Surely no one would give ridiculous amounts of money for religion, would they? Just the other day, a student of mine made the excellent point that money facilitates acting in your own self-interest, but religion gets you to invest your resources in ways often counter to your self-interest. Economics 0, religion 1. So religion wins as the most powerful motivating force in culture. But what is the outcome of this singular, transformative, driving force? Does religion raise us to the heights of human potential? Well, unfortunately, not so much. Most often, religion shapes people like nothing else, to follow Iron Age worldviews and ethics. Thus, in the midst of crises, local and global, people dedicate their resources to championing the values and even explanations of a world long dead. This paradox fascinates and drives me. Religion has been near universal, its potency unparalleled, and yet its stories are thousands of years old, at tension with modern understandings, ethics, and needs. It is powerful, but not always good. It brings benefits, but at a cost. It is compelling, but outdated, motivating, but misdirected. So that is engaging, but too often proves disappointing. And while so many are fighting to defend religion, science is pretty great, folks. I recommend trying it. The social sciences in particular have a great deal to contribute to the question of what we need and how to live well. But again, we collide with the irony that those science, philosophy, and the arts have given us the best resources we have, the best answers to how we live well. People cling tenaciously to the religions of old. I repeat again my proposal. Though we may disagree on the terms and details, if we human deeply enough, we will end up religious. If we take that seriously instead of getting distracted by prejudices and the limitations of what is, we will end up happy humans. In addition, even if we want to eradicate religion as we know it, we won't get rid of those current forms of religion until we come up with something better. This is why I believe that the best future religion will be religious humanism. So what does the past and present have to teach us about religion? The past. I won't spend time on the origins of religion, but I will explain why religion is so valuable. As I said, religion motivates and facilitates cooperation like nothing else. Richard Sosis has argued that religious rituals that are too costly to fake, like putting pieces of bone in your penis, or wearing really uncomfortable underwear, help members of a community trust each other and work together. And it turns out that working together is precisely the human secret. Humans have conquered and perhaps may destroy the world in groups, big groups. There's no other animal that cooperates both flexibly and on such a large scale. As Yuval Harari points out, if a human and a chimpanzee are competing on an episode of Survivor, the chimpanzee will win. If it's 10 chimpanzees and 10 humans, the chimpanzees will win. But once you get to a group of over 100 or so, 1,000, Homo sapiens holds the overpowering advantage. Put a few thousand chimps together in the same area, and you will get a disaster rather than a sports event. How do we do it? How do we succeed in large groups? Well, we lie to each other. Rather, we believe in the same fictions that enable trust and trade. Have you guessed which fiction has proved to be one of the most dominant? Religion. Here are a few ways that religion has evolved to benefit us. Religion eases social pain. Think about clear expectations and how it manages belonging. It modulates social emotions, conflict resolution, forgiveness, repentance, gives meaning. It increases social support, not only real social support, but there are gods, spirits, ancestors, fictive kin groups, so we imagine we are part of the same family. It reduces stress through stability and trusted leaders. In addition, religion meets individual and collective needs in a very powerful way. What do people need? How do we thrive? I'm not just talking about happiness, which is a post hoc construction. We convince ourselves that we're happy. And if we're an optimist or pessimist, that's about 50% of it. But well-being. Positive psychology has highlighted 5 aspects of individual thriving expressed in the acronym PERMA. How does religion contribute to each of these elements? Well, here's the depressing conclusion. When it comes to well-being, religion basically kicks secularism's ass. Like, it wins in every area. So positive emotion. Religious narratives and rituals in a social setting make us feel good. Music, architecture, communal meals, these and other aspects of religion contribute to the feel-good aspect of well-being. Engagement. Religion demands a great deal of us and provides opportunities for intense involvement. We thus have a chance for flow experiences as we excel at difficult tasks and learn skills we may otherwise not. Time passes quickly as we engage in rituals and activities. Sometimes religious behavior does not pass quickly. But relationships, religion both binds and divides, but even so it creates communities so powerful they are matched only by, and sometimes rival, too often rival, family units. In fact, members of religious groups often create fictive kin groups, as they call themselves brother or sister, and otherwise create intentional families of co-believers. Further, people often, sometimes even as a rule, select friends and partners from within the religious communities, binding religion and relationships tighter and tighter. Meaning. Here we go. Meaning is probably the pinnacle of religious achievement. Sam Harris has challenged the world to come up with a religious answer superior to its scientific analog, and I believe it is found in the simple question, why are we here? Not how did we get here? I mean, evolution, that's a thing. Yes, the science answers the question, how did we get here? But why are we here? Science will tell us it's to perpetuate our DNA. That will not get you up in the morning. I mean, some mornings, but not every morning. So for questions of meaning, myth reigns supreme. Additionally, most, if not all, religions teach that each individual is cosmically important and has a particular relationship with the divine, creating a distinctive distinctive sense of identity and purpose. And even if it's not true, it changes our lives. Okay, achievement. So this is interesting. Getting a job is hard. You know, succeeding in the real world is depressingly hard. But religions will say things like, you just 13'd. I'm so proud of you. I cannot believe how successful you 13'd. Or, you know, you read your scriptures. Or you achieved a certain place in life, or you got married. Religious achievement is often easier, especially if you're a man, to achieve than secular or achievement in the world. So again, there are rites of passage that organize our lives. Religion also brings collective advantages, stability. So as I said, scholars have proposed that our brain grew to its unprecedented size so that we could remember our relative social status. Like thousands of combinations, you know, who are we above, who are we below? Even though we like to be egalitarian, once you press our monkey brain, you know, we really care. It's like a job picnic where you don't know who's your boss and who's your coworker. It's very anxiety-producing when we don't know what our relative status is. So cooperation, as I said, religious ritual engineers trust and cooperation like nothing else. And then finally, there's pro-sociality. This is the fancy term for gets along well with others, including helping others. Amazingly, most people want to do good and be good, but here's the problem, and I'm going to come back to this. We want to do good on our own terms, when we want to, how we want to. One of the most important questions that we need to confront in the future is what motivates us to do more than we want to do. And our liberal inclinations are like, oh, no, that's not nice. It's not nice to make me go to sports events, or learn a musical instrument, or try out for the Olympics. Another paradox of life is that, has this happened to any of you, that sometimes we look back on miserable experiences, and we say, that has made me what I am. I am so glad I went through that divorce. It was terrible, but I'm glad, you know, I can see the benefits of that death in my family, or having someone handicapped. These excruciatingly difficult aspects of life we would not choose. Here's another paradox of human nature that religion capitalizes on. We don't know what we want. The human ability to make decision maxes out at about 2. We want the illusion of freedom. Okay, I want this one, not this one. But once we get to about 3 choices, we panic. We only know what we are glad to have done, or we regret having done. We live backwards. And so this is one of my strong positions, is that we as humans need structure. We need structure and something pushing us beyond what we would otherwise choose to do. In America, I think this will be the fall of the American empire. Nothing trumps preference. We are the Burger King culture. We want everything our way all the time. And usually we want to do good. Congratulations, you're all here because you want to. That's fantastic. But religion pushes us to do far more than we would ever want to do. And again, before you think that's necessarily a bad thing, think about the benefits, advantages. Conservative organizations, such as the military and religion, they get stuff done. They get stuff done far more effectively, far more efficiently than the more liberal, preferential organizations. So where does this leave us? Okay, I painted a pretty rosy picture of religion, or at least a potent picture of religion. Now, there are also trade-offs, and this is where we get into the dark side of religion that we also need to own. Because we evolved in social groups, we feel social pain. This social pain piggybacks onto our physiological pain receptors, so when we have a broken heart, we literally feel it in our torso. We feel social pain in our bodies. It's not pretend. It's very real. It is as real as physical pain. We desperately long to belong, which is why high school can be such a miserable experience. We want to be important. And this is where religion can be a vehicle for depression, shunning, violence, all in the name of God. One of the most powerful words in any language is normal. What's normal? And then when God is dictating what is normal, you have an irresistible force that you will break yourself against rather than change. So that's how we got here. Where does it leave us? As I said, we live in a culture where perhaps for the first time, all is negotiable. We choose our friends, our careers, and even communities. Meaning and even morality must be discussed and defended. This openness is thrilling. This openness is terrifying. However we face this disruption, we need to confront a sobering fact. We are not evolved for this modern world, not completely at least. We human beings adapt and evolve on 3 levels: biologically, culturally, and technologically. And these elements are currently in tension. Our social groups are larger than ever before, which triggers social uncertainty, anxiety, depression. Yet many of us never have felt so alone. We resort to damaging coping mechanisms such as overeating or self-medicating with chemicals or media, and our primitive brains congratulate us on finding high-caloric foods necessary for survival, or making alliances with powerful figures such as Brad Pitt. We then become depressed when our rational minds remind us that these benefits are really only make-believe. And these problems and challenges, they stem from the disconnect of our evolution to thrive and cooperate in hunter-gatherer societies. And this is at tension with the frenetic global scale requirements of our modern world. And where does religion fit into all of this? Where does religion fit into this mismatch? Well, it has adapted over time. My favorite description of Mormonism is science fiction Christianity, and that's pretty close. And for societies more recent than tribal groups, we're about agricultural level, 12,000-year-old religion, maybe 3,000-year-old religion. With only a bit of overstatement, I propose that most religious denominations leave members caught between 2 extremes: fully embrace the truth claims of that religion, which results in rejecting science, morality, philosophy, or embrace modernity and sacrifice the core of their religious beliefs. And if we reject religion, in part precisely because it does not seem pertinent to our lives, do we also forfeit the benefits that I've just outlined? Pay attention to my precise argument. I am not claiming that every person needs to be religious. I am pointing out that religion engages in a powerful and possibly unique ways with human nature, and we therefore need to take it seriously. Yet all solutions seem somehow less than ideal. The old no longer works. The new has not yet fully arrived. So, to sum up where we are, I hope that I've persuaded you that religion is a core part of human nature and will not easily wash off. If you don't feel religious, you are probably benefiting from a high degree of privilege and you are meeting your needs elsewhere. And that is okay. Just don't blithely claim from that comfy worldview that religion has no value. To sum up where we stand, religion aligns with our evolution. The modern world does not align with our evolution. Current forms of religion suck. Most everything else sucks. As Alain de Botton has claimed, we have secularized poorly. We can either be religious, he quips, or live in a spiritual wasteland governed by CNN and Walmart. So what do? Before I go about bettering and replacing religion, I want to address a few key terms: secular, atheist, agnostic, humanist, and religious humanist. Okay, this is where I'll probably get provocative, as if I haven't been yet. Though I understand, and people are already leaving, though I understand why people use the term, I would propose that the term secular actually doesn't mean as much as you think it means. Etymologically, it comes from the Latin term seculum, or world. So it is doing things the world's way. What does that mean? Nothing on its own. It is a responsive rejection word, a not word. Secular means not religious. So secular defines itself by what it rejects. It's immature and shallow in some ways. It is taking a stand, and a needed stand, in our current world. But this stand is a stage, a stopgap. It's worthy, even necessary for many to pass through, but it is not a destination. Atheist is another not word. What about the atheists or adragonists? You know, the people who don't believe in unicorns. What about them? You know, why don't we need to identify ourselves and say, just before we go on a second date, I need to say, I don't believe in witches. Why is atheist the term? Or in the other direction, if someone says, do you believe? We know exactly what they are talking about. And it's not CrossFit. So atheist, this is a word that is needed because theist is assumed, or at least it has been. The relationship between atheist and agnostic is unfortunately misunderstood, victims of sloppy communication. An agnostic is not an uncommitted, fence-sitting atheist, but simply someone who appreciates the limits of human knowledge. Agnostic, they're on different axes of the graph. Agnostic measures the degree to which you think you can be certain about something, and atheist or theist describes the referent of that certainty or its lack. Did you follow? So most atheists are agnostic atheists. When believers are like, so what if you had absolute proof that God existed? Gotcha. The atheist is like, well, yeah, I believe in it, because then it'd be science. There is no gotcha there. I won't go into the rich history of humanism, but in a nutshell, humanism means that we need to solve our own damn problems. We need to believe in ourselves. Believers condemn humanists for making themselves their gods, and they are absolutely right. The problem is, humans are pretty lame gods. We need to be better. We can challenge ourselves with a human-centered theodicy. Why do we humans, godlike in our ability to do good and literally answer prayers, instead squander that potential by sacrificing others and even the planet upon the altars of apathy, greed, and selfishness? If we are to fulfill the hopes of religion by ourselves, we must be far better humans. We must aim for the goal of life before death and be saviors to each other. Secular humanists would likely be uncomfortable with my spiritually based terms, which is probably because I am not a secular humanist, but I'm a religious humanist. What is a religious humanist, then? It sounds like a paradox, right? It sounds like something that would piss off all the religious people and all the humanists. That's kind of the goal. The way I use it, a religious humanist is a humanist who takes seriously the human relationship to religion. Religious humanism is a form of humanism that incorporates the cultural technology of religion into the quest for individual and collective thriving and well-being. Because religion has co-evolved with humans, as I've just described, we remain sensitive to myth, meaning, ritual. Religious humanism places those religious elements such as sacredness and meaning within the realm of human experience while allowing for a range of conceptions of the transcendent. I believe that ultimately, humanist proves the most meaningful word if we go deep enough. Once we quest into human nature and the secrets of human, individual, and collective thriving, some of which I've outlined, we will end up with positive, constructive, new ways of seeing and feeling and living, of cooperating and loving and healing. And by understanding the relationship between human nature and religion, we can work toward that well-being, whatever our choices about current organized religion happen to be. I will now turn to my 3 proposed solutions to fix religion. I was serious, I told you that. 1 is religion better than true. 2 is a spiritual training regimen. And 3 is religious humanist denominations. Religion better than true. I propose the following thought exercise, a question. What would happen if a fully invested yet open-minded literal believer and a sympathetic atheist former member had to agree on their religion? I don't know how tight my time is. I actually dramatized this. Do you want to hear this in terms of Mormonism? Okay, so what's the idea here again, Luke asked? To see if we can articulate a form of Mormonism that we agree on, Josh replied. I know you don't believe anymore, to put it mildly, but we have known each other since we were in primary. We were at each other's weddings. If anyone can do this, we can. I'm game, said Luke with a bit of a smirk. Any Mormonism that I would approve of would have to be so much better, it might end up looking like a completely different religion to you all. Well, that's the challenge. It needs to pass your muster. It also needs to remain recognizable to me. You know that I genuinely believe in all of this. Right. And I like you well enough despite that. Luke's smile was genuine. So, should we start with a specific topic or just fix Mormonism in one fell swoop? How about missionary work, Josh asked. Oh man, what a waste of time and money. Harmful even, Luke retorted. Grinding in confirmation bias, rules and scripture that lead to anxiety and depression, young adults who think they have all the answers, even cultural imperialism masquerading as gospel, not to mention the unfair social expectations. I would never let my kids go on a mission. Do you really have no positive memories of your mission? Luke became thoughtful. When you put it that way, I can't dismiss it completely. Being in a different culture was an eye-opening, maturing experience. It encouraged me to work hard, even though I now consider the work a waste of time. And similarly, being focused on others' needs changed me, even if I considered the spiritual focus to be misguided. I would have much preferred a service opportunity. Why couldn't that be possible, Josh pushed. What if LDS missions became primarily service missions? Other religions already do that. Missionaries could meet with local community leaders and say, in effect, we are young, strong, and are here to help you in whatever way you want us and needed. The church already takes that approach in some locations. That sounds good, but what about proselyting? Isn't that the whole point of missions, to save souls and stuff? It could be responsive rather than proactive. In the process of serving people, missionaries could answer questions and discuss the gospel with those interested. That's how Paul did it. Following the example of the New Testament, that would be a departure for Mormons, Luke quipped. I could actually get behind that. I don't believe in any of the principles of Mormonism. I consider myself an atheist, but I don't deny the power that religion, even literal belief in the supernatural, has. If those 90,000 missionaries or whatever were improving communities around the world and addressing genuine needs, I could handle some Book of Mormon thrown in, even if it weren't the musical. Yeah, this approach would be a win-win, Josh added. Missionaries would have a much better experience, feel good about what they were doing, whether or not they believed in Mormonism, and retention rates would go up because those being taught would be genuinely interested. I'm beginning to see how this exercise works, Luke admitted grudgingly. Okay, bigger topic, temples. They are at the center of the LDS faith. Temple recommend holding Mormonism is the only valid Mormonism. I think they're a waste of money and end up ironically dividing families instead of making them eternal. Plus, let's not even start in on worthiness interviews. It was Josh's turn to get thoughtful. I see what you mean. I fully believe that ordinances are essential for everyone, but I don't think we need quite so many temples. And I have friends whose entire families weren't able to attend their wedding. That doesn't seem right. What if there were fewer temples and the ones we had were used better? Again, there's a great deal that we could learn from other faiths. Sacred space is important. Supposedly the celestial room is for meditation, but too often them shoot out. And I think if we really wanted to respect sealings, we would separate weddings from sealings. Have everyone get married civilly, and then sealed a year later. Yeah, we could tackle worthiness interviews another time. I have my issues with them as well. I knew there was a reason we were friends, Luke smiled. You are altogether too reasonable for a believer. Almost thou persuadest me to be partially active. Luke became very serious. But let me strike at the core of my issues. See if you can resolve these, Brother Josh. I think Mormonism is a waste of time, a misdirection at best, deeply harmful at worst, even deadly sometimes. Members donate massive amounts of time and money for what? To make fat the institution, for hunting preserves and malls. And what do members learn? What is taught to little children? Not how to be a good person, how to be a good Mormon. They are treated as roles, not individuals. Priesthood holder, mother. They are given scripts. Don't have sex outside marriage. Don't drink coffee. Rather than being taught how to live. I am a better person for having left the church. Josh took this all stoically. You aren't wrong, my friend. But what about me? Am I a worse person for being an active member of the church? No, Luke admitted, but you are the exception. We can have this conversation despite, not because of the current practices and approaches of the LDS Church. But I don't think that the problems are part of the gospel. I think there's a way to teach children and adults in a way that teaches both principles of living well and remains distinctively Mormon. I admit the church needs to change in significant ways, and that is one reason we are having this conversation. Why there need to be 1,000 conversations such as ours between people who deeply care for each other, who are open and sympathetic. I think that those conversations can result in a Mormonism so good it doesn't need to be true. A religion that we both can agree on, even if we don't believe in it. Luke nodded. I'm game. I don't suppose that you'd want to revise the Articles of Faith over a beer. Make mine a root beer, and let's do it. So my Sunday school podcast, Engaging Gospel Doctrine, is actually an extensive, high-investment modeling of religion so good it doesn't need to be true. I don't know if any of you have listened, but the Mormon Sunday School podcast that John invited me to start teaches humanism in Mormon language. It is TED Talks mingled with Scripture. And what it does is everyone from atheists to literal believers hear a version of Sunday school that they can get behind. So far, so good. There's been a very positive response. So we have now made every single religion on the planet better. You know, imagine, this is like Pope Francis' religion. Imagine if every religion became the best version of itself. There would absolutely be limitations. But if insiders talked with each other, and this would be more like a consultant level, the vast majority of believers would never know what you just did. You know, that you, like, pimped their religion. But they would respond, and it would be familiar to them. I mean, imagine the service mission example in Mormonism. If President Monson announced that at a conference, everyone would be thrilled. There is no critique that a literal believer, beyond like, that's not how things are, which will always be the conservative background. So, solution number 2, and I'll go through these really quickly. But what about those who don't want religion, who are just fine on their own, thanks? This is where a spiritual training regimen would come in, and I'm literally going to create a spiritual training app. A spiritual training regimen is nothing less than your own personalized system of spirituality. But remember, we have to be aware of our individual preference. How much working out do you want to do? None? It depends on where you are. How healthy... Okay, for the vast majority of people, the diet, if a nutritionist dictated every choice you ever made, I mean, you'd be bored, but you would be better off and you'd be healthier and you'd get to enjoy those foods than if you just chose whatever you want, and worst, if you just chose what the advertisers wanted you to eat. Designing your own religion would be just as easy as designing your own language. People are not equipped. But think about it. What if there were a system that gave you a really robust personality test, and then there was a cooperative process of selecting and being guided by those results, and you followed a template of spiritual practices? And the core of the spiritual training regimen is mindfulness. Let's imagine that you had an app. And what I'm getting at with the spiritual training regimen is the idea that even the things you like, you don't do enough. We all like being outside, right? But after 2 days of being indoors straight, we're outside in the sunshine, we're like, the sunshine feels so good. Or we watch a movie that we haven't watched in a long time that's our very favorite. We're like, why haven't I watched it in so long? We need structure, we need ritual. So the core is mindfulness. So what you do is you pick your own scripture. So maybe it's a song by Lady Gaga, or maybe it's a passage out of Lord of the Rings. And you are reminded once a day, a couple times a week, now is the time. Now is the time to listen to Lady Gaga. Or now is the time to go into your sacred space, whether it's the backyard or your bedroom, and drink a glass of water, or whatever your ritualistic beverage of choice is. And sit and do nothing but be as you drink your ritual beverage. And there could be social media check-ins, where it's like, Joe just read his scripture, which is Thor, or whatever. So here is just a few ideas for the spiritual training regimen. Meditation will just do more good for you than anything else you do, so that's not optional. But you can choose what kind of meditation you want. Scripture. What is your own scripture? Sacred time. What are your holidays? What daily activities are meaningful to you? Ritualized relationships. How many of you remember to call the people you love in your life and remind them of that? How often do you do it? This would be ritualized. Ritualized discomfort, getting out of your comfort zone. Mindful physical engagement, communing with nature, sacred space, vows, gratitude, journal writing. So that gives you an idea of the spiritual training regimen. And as I said, my most ambitious goal is I want to found religious humanist denominations. I'm out of time, so I won't talk about that. We can talk about it after. But what I want to do is I want to reverse engineer religion, which is like this template of religion. I want to use social science, art, culture to get at the very best ideas that we humans have on how to live well. And then, and this is the most important step, I want to translate it into cultural myths we already believe in. So I'm going to start with 3. Life Church. This is high church religious humanism. Imagine a deeply ritualistic religious experience, including beautiful architecture like cathedrals, stained glass windows, communal meals, embodied worship, rites of passage. Sermons draw from culture and science. The goal is well-being in this life, and the whole exercise is supported by our best understandings of how we work as human beings. Imagine a pantheon of personified principles and demons of logical fallacies. Life Church will draw from aspects of more specific denominations as well. I want to found Geek Church. Total serious, like absolutely serious. This is religionized popular culture. Imagine a Bible that teaches ethics and skills and meaning by drawing from Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Star Wars, and comic books and beloved sources. Who would your totem superhero be? Earth Church. I think Earth Church might have only female clergy. This is religionized environmentalism. Imagine hell as a destroyed world that we careen toward if something doesn't change. Heaven is the sustainable paradise, hopefully still within our reach. Sin is sin against the earth. Pray to Mother Earth. Prepare healthy communal meals as sacrament with food from the garden and engage in activism to heal the world. So unfortunately, in conclusion, Geek Church does not yet exist, although Star Wars is coming out. What do we do now? What are about our own individual stories, our own pasts, presents, and futures? I would guess that most here were raised religious, but I'm confident that we have pretty different feelings about that fact. What I hope you come away with after my remarks is that you take seriously that we as human beings, if you don't like the word religious, we are ritualistic. We are narrative-driven. We need meaning. And I invite all of you to find that meaning, both individually and in the context of community. Thank you. What's the time on it? Any questions or should we end? Do you need to be done?
No, we can go into the discussion. That's
I have time if you do. No.
So, I wonder if, like, this is one question I had as you're speaking, like, do the truth claims of religions matter, though? Like, it seems like part of what makes someone motivated to do something is the fact that, there's some reward they're going to get,
yep.
Or they think that this is what the all-powerful creative church really wants me to do, or, they're going to focus on the afterlife, because if there really is, if, for the sake of argument, there really is an afterlife, then maybe it matters more than this life, and let's ignore this life, and, worry about, where we're going to end up after we die.
Great.
And I don't understand exactly how you can get the same level of motivating force out of kind of, this without.
I get your question.
Yeah.
So what about literal belief? My first answer is I don't want humanism to have the same force as religion. I don't want humanism to be something you kill yourself over, that you kill others over. Give us money or your house in heaven won't be as nice. Again, I don't think that's good, but literal belief is necessary. And the literal belief of religious humanism is God is speaking to you through blank. And I think there are ways to create myth where it works no matter what. So for example, I believe in life before death. And I think that we can hope for the afterlife, but not gamble on it. So you can still have the hopes, but you don't focus on that. And I think that we can change the myth and the motivation and the rhetorical force to say it's about life now. Usually people who bank on the afterlife, it's because life sucks.
So,
yeah.
It seems like that involves some level of destruction. There are certain literal beliefs in the world that you would want to get rid of.
And this is why only insiders can do it. That's religion better than true, and that's why I want insiders to debate this. Because it is not up to us as outsiders to say, you need to fix your culture, you need to fix your religion. But we can mobilize the activists that are already in each tradition. And it's that, okay, religion better than true still has problems, but it is the best form of that religion. And so it's just a way to move forward efficiently. Utterly idealistic versions will never, ever work. Other questions? Yeah. Should we?
Okay. I see the value in ritual, and you can feel when you don't have it anymore, but how do you keep ritual from becoming a checklist?
I think that's the work that all of us need to do. How do you prevent your job from being checklisty? How do you prevent eating from being checklisty? And this is what mindfulness, Ellen Langer has done amazing research where the reason we feel good running, the reason we feel good meditating, it's actually just mindfulness. And you can go directly to mindfulness. And so that's a spiritual practice. But we need the structure. We think that, this is a bit of a lazy approach, if I may say so. We think that if we just do what we want to do, we'll be happy and in the moment. Nope. It's if we put ourselves into what we're doing. It's the reverse. It's be happy with what you're doing, not do it you're happy, mostly. I mean, as long as it's good, demonstrably good and has structure. Yeah?
Two questions. One of your premises, it seems to me, is that religion makes people happy. I generally agree.
Both happy and miserable. Continue.
Yes. It's got that side effect sometimes. But if that's the case, why do we see the countries in the world that have the lowest levels of overt
Socialism.
Okay, what do you answer to that? Because they do have high levels of happiness.
Yep.
Religion, Denmark, Sweden, Norway.
Exactly. So the very best way to get rid of religion is take care of each other. And so that would be humanism. That'd be a socialistic humanism. But even then, you still need stories. No wonder they're happy. They have Thor. But it's that you take care of this. Whereas I am targeting, my audience is Americans, primarily. And we are toxically individualistic. And we are toxically religious. And so I'm trying to mobilize those different aspects. Did you say you had a second question?
Question number 2. I was raised in Marshall Mountain with Christian Reformed Unitarian Church, which is about as far as the two ends of the spectrum as one can get. Unitarians, our biggest subdivision nationwide and worldwide are secular humans. That's the biggest group of people we have in office, so I'm familiar with doing religion.
Yeah.
But here's the challenge. What I've noticed is secular humanists are cats.
Yes.
Cats. It is no small cat.
And that's why you need Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's why you need Obi-Wan Kenobi. Okay, really quickly. When I want to religionize culture, the Unitarian Universalism is one of the best things, the greatest successful stories that we have in humanism. In fact, religious humanism went kind of two directions, and the UU was one of them. But again, it's limited by preference. It's limited. They engage as much as they want to. When I design a cathedral for Middle Earth or Earth Church, I want people to have two responses. One is, I've come home. But the other is far more important. The other is, I never realized how much Dumbledore demanded of me as a human being. The way that this will engage human nature is it will take things people are already passionate about, already used to organize their lives, and it will use community and structure to push them beyond what they would normally do. It is a bold task, but at least it's better than religion. And so again, they already have that passion. I just want to redirect it in a compelling way. I don't know what our timing is. I'll just keep going until I'm told to stop.
Is that a question about narrative?
Yes.
You keep saying that people have narratives to believe their stories. Do we have to believe those, or how do they stop the fact that
do we need to believe our own narratives? This depends a lot on personality. Literal belief does things that figurative belief can't. If you believe that you have a myth of awesomeness, that you just, if you believe you're worth, this is a good one actually. If you believe that you're worthy of love, it's very different than you telling yourself the story that you're worthy of love. I think that, again, depending on our own motivation, if Joseph Smith were told in Liberty Jail, you are not yet as Frodo, okay, pardon the anachronism. Joseph would have nothing to do with anachronisms. That would not have the same force as you're not yet as Job. So I think that we gravitate toward narratives that are most meaningful and most powerful to us. But you take a myth like sports, so the government, that's a myth. Sports is a myth. Money's a myth. But we believe in them very, very deeply. And it depends on our personality, our training, our background, how much we deconstruct that. Does that answer your question? Okay. Yeah.
You mentioned meditation as a required component.
Yes.
What are some of the resources that you might begin, that you might recommend?
Yeah. I don't want to take time for that now, because as far as how to meditate well, there are tons and tons of resources. That was one example of how we use scientifically demonstrated principles that are also in religion to say, okay, no, this scientifically makes you a better human being. There are studies about that it does kind of rewire your brain matter, it increases empathy. Meditation is one of the amazing aspects that is also in religion. Should we keep going? I don't know how to access the questions that the University of Arizona students have. Anything else? Okay, thanks.